We're taking a look at shares of GM dipping now after initially rising on its third fiscal quarter earnings. Now, the company beat expectations on its top and bottom line, but the projected financial impact of the UAW strike is weighing on the company's profits as well as investor sentiment. Yahoo Finance spoke to GM's CFO Paul Jacobson this morning about how the company is weathering the impact of those strikes. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I do think that this is something that, when we can get past this and when we can prove to the market that, we could rise to the challenges of what the higher costs are going to be while still hitting our goals and our targets that we've set out for investors. I think we can recover some of that, but it is going to take some work. There's no doubt this is going to create some inflationary pressure, and we're going to do our best to make sure that it doesn't disrupt us from our targets. But that requires us signing a deal that we know we can be competitive with in the future, and like I said, for the next generation.
Well, since GM's earnings call, UAW has announced an additional 5,000 workers at General Motors' Arlington, Texas assembly plant. They're walking out today. So joining us now is Yahoo Finance senior autos reporter Pras Subramanian. Pras, I know you're continuing to follow this story. So what is this doing now to GM and really the narrative around the strikes?
Yeah, Rochelle, you just hit on that just now earlier in your intro about how we had the GM earnings today, strong earnings, but they're taking some hits from the effects of the strike. But then also just now, UAW seeing those strong earnings and saying, you know what, we're going to call all the workers out of GM's full-size SUV plant, Arlington, Texas, to walk off, like you said, 5,000 workers. That plant makes the highly profitable full-size SUVs like the Chevy Tahoe, GMC Yukon, and the Cadillac Escalade. So I mentioned before, this was sort of already impacting GM's bottom line. GM said today that they had to pull their guidance, their full profit guidance for the year, because they were unsure about when the strike would end, how far it would go, how much of a financial impact it would have. As of right now, it has cost them $200 million in Q3. And since the beginning, through the start of Q4, it's been $800 million impacted. That's hit their profits there since the strike started by the UAW. So the latest move by the UAW here with that strike in Arlington, Texas, is going to make that financial pain even worse, I think, for GM here.
And you have to wonder then, as other car companies then also report earnings as well, the ones that are involved here, including Ford, might be wondering about the same backlash when they announce earnings. Is that more likely to happen, do you think? Or are some of these companies doing better in terms of the talks? They're closer at this point where perhaps we wouldn't have that same sort of reaction.
The UAW said that, I believe, that Stellantis was the worst off in terms of the deal that they've seen. But then they also said that the GM sort of talks were, quote, dead in the water with regards to unionization of battery plants, those JV plants that the automakers, the big three, are working with companies like Samsung and LG. So there's sort of varying different states at each automaker. I think Ford supposedly has the most competitive offer, but GM put out a statement today saying that we upped our offer to 25% wage increase for those workers. So they think that they have a pretty strong offer out there, and they're disappointed, they said, after the latest move by the UAW. So I think we might hear more when Ford releases earnings later this week on Thursday. Maybe the UAW might see a strong Ford report and say, you know what, we're going to go after some other plants of yours to up the ante and get them, I guess, to kind of come up with a better offer. But the question is, a lot of automakers saying we can't go much further. And now we're seeing whether the UAW might actually think about maybe we should strike a deal when it's hot as of right now.
Indeed, certainly continuing to watch this story unfold and hoping for a resolution at some point. A big appreciation to you there, our very own Pras Subramanian.